From Texas, it's the Revved Up Sports Show. Here's Bobby Chaffee and Rodney Rodriguez.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another live edition of your favorite racing show, the Revved Up Sports Show, indeed from Texas. Showtime, Bobby Chaffee, right here. That's right. Back in Studio 4 up at the worldwide headquarters there in Round Rock. Iceman Rodney Rodriguez, SM Man, right back over there.
Hello, friends.
Enjoying a tree trimming extravaganza today.
Yeah, it never fails. Hopefully everybody is doing well after the ice event that we have been watching throughout Texas. So, and hopefully you have power.
Yeah, that's a big one. People in Austin, a couple of my coworkers just finally got power back today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a tough thing there. So hopefully you and yours doing well. And, man, we're just excited to be doing this once again. And a pretty cool show that we have lined up this evening, I think.
Yes, very Houston Motorsport Park centric.
Yep.
For sure. Got our good friend John Maddenbach, but even our better buddy, a guy we've been trying to get on this show for a long time, Uncle Bob Morales. We've been trying to get Uncle Bob on the show for years, and luckily, thankfully, he finally decided, agreed to do it, and we thought tonight would not be more fitting night than to talk to Uncle Bob, especially after talking to John Maddenbach.
Yeah, you know, Bob there with all the years there at Houston, I mean, and very low-key, and I mean, that's one of the things there with Bob. It's never about him. I mean, it's all about just the presentation and everything that he did right there, and it is a great piggyback right there, and with Maddenbach coming on, you know, so many people always talk about it, and that's one of the things that is frustrating to when you know, every regime that's been in Houston, it's like, oh, okay, but it's not like the Maddenbach days. Well, you know what? That is easier said than done, because that and he'll, I mean, he's going to talk a little bit about it, but I can promise you one thing: he's not going to tell us too many secrets, because I mean, the dude, when you talk about a consultant, that dude should make a lot of money to you know, promoters that want to run a racetrack, because he did it right. I mean, he did a really good job with what he did.
Yeah, he was really good. Kind of ahead of his time, at least
Way
for
ahead.
Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, not like the Ricky Wares of the world and stuff with some of the showmanship, but he had a really dog-eat-dog world, and the people down there dug it. It was the right promoter with the right track conditions and the right racers to make a really good show there for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it was a different day and time there with like when you mentioned Ricky Ware and Alvin Stewart, you know, obviously in Austin, and the folks in Corpus did what they did. I mean, it really was. And what John did, I mean, John came in, and we posted this to where we talked about outside the box thinking, and that's what John did. I mean, he went out and he found the people shopping at Fiesta. And he went out and did this and was doing discounted, you know, vouchers and tickets and all this in advance tickets, for one thing. I mean, that's something.
Well, $5 tickets plus a service fee. That's what everybody used to complain to me about.
Right. And the whole thing is, I mean, it's like, you know, folks try to replicate the dollar beer and dollar hot dogs and all that. Never the way that it was done there. I mean, And I mean, we tried. I mean, we tried that, and it failed. And it's a lot that what he did, and it needs to be respected. And I just thought that it was cool that something popped up, and I saw somebody talking about the Maddenbach days. I said, let's call this dude. Let's reach out to him and see if he'll jump on and just kind of share why he did it. I mean, but he tapped into a market that was just dying to have the success that was there. And I mean, you were there for years, and to see how all of that would happen. I mean, that was something where people would staple that into their calendar, show up, and just kick ass. I mean, that was, I don't think, I mean, I'm challenging promoters. I don't think we ever see that again.
No,
Not
well, and
here.
I think you got to figure out too. You could tell which one of the two entities over there, the drag strip and or the oval track, was the one making the most money because they were the ones running first and the 15th.
Right.
So when the track was running the 1st and the 15th for both paydays, that's when you knew the track was making all the money over there for that facility because it was just jam packed every night. It was so much damn fun as an announcer to announce for a crowd that energetic and that big.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the couple of times that I got to do shows for John, it was, and I got to tell you, John, a lot of my, announcing path or whatever was a lot learned from John. I mean, just because he would come up to me and I can tell you that John taught me a lot about being prepared, because John would come up and he's like, "All right, here's your liners," and I'm like, "What?" I mean, it's like, okay, here's the stuff that you need to talk about.
This dude is here. You need to kiss his ass.
Right. It's like 3 or 4 times a night, you need to say this. And he'd come hand me this stuff. And I'll tell you one of the other things that John taught me, and it's helped me, just kind of growing in the motorsports industry, is, John's the first guy that says, "Hey, come on up. I'm going to set you up at the Holiday Inn, and everything's taken care of." And I'm like, I mean, seriously, the first time he did that, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. So all I have to do is go tell them who I am, and you've got that covered? And he's like, yes.
Yeah, it was nice, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's one of the things to where it, I don't know. I would love to see that rivaled here, obviously. Whether it be on the pavement or on dirt or whatever, just the success that happened there. But that really was, I mean, we can kind of piggyback this thing onto what we just saw last night with the Clash. And I know a lot of folks are bitching about that thing, but it's like, that's how you do it. That was mainstream. That was in Houston. I mean, what's that? The 3rd, 4th biggest city in the country. And he had that place jammed each and every time.
Well, it was one of those things where even if you just needed to get a portion of Houston.
That's it.
Just get a portion of Clear Lake over there. Just get a portion of Humboldt over there. Atascocita. Just get, the Woodlands. Just get a little chunk of all those little communities over there, which they did, and boom, the place was full. You could always tell a damn good night because when the rafters in turn 1 were full all the way to the top, that's when you know you were getting a good crowd.
Yeah, and what I like about what John did, and this kind of ties into the whole, with the Clash, with the Coliseum and everything, that the conversations about Wiz Khalifa and, demographics and all of that's really important. John didn't, with the Fiesta thing, he didn't go chase HEB. He went out and he chased the maybe Fiesta more the common. I can tell you there's a Fiesta here in Austin, right off of downtown, and it's more Hispanic, Latino, whatever you want to call it, right there. He went out and he chases that demographic, and he offered them the discounted stuff, and they would show up. And that really works. I mean, kind of piggybacking this to the Clash again is where folks talking about everything that we just saw last night. I mean, you remember when we were at TMS when they had the Tejano thing and Latino thing.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I have never seen so many Mexicans. I can say that because I am one. I have never seen so many Mexicans at TMS that I saw that night when they had that show.
Well,
diving into the demographic.
Well, and the biggest thing they missed out on the boat was having Daniel Suarez not be there.
Right.
That was the biggest thing. But I mean, it was, it was authentic, right? With full-fledged Spanish and everything else, talking about go get the cerveza and go to the stage and stuff.
The magic word.
They were running. I mean, they were buying beer hand over fist right there, and it was the expensive $8 a beer, and they didn't care.
Dude, it was always the coolest thing when I raced over at Longhorn, and when I was working for a countertop shop in Austin, and my guys would come out to watch me race on Saturday night. And I think that they would buy the beer. They like buy it all. I mean, because my dudes would come out and they didn't care what it cost. I mean, it was just one of those things. But I do want to touch on the Clash a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of folks that are, and again, I post things on Facebook just to get you people fired up. And this weekend, y'all did well. But I mean, seriously, I mean, you go back to it, and it's like I go and I look, and it's like too many cautions. You didn't like Bristol because they changed it, and there were no cautions. There's not enough people in the crowd. There were 60,000 people there.
Yeah, 55, 60, yeah.
Yeah.
At the time of the main event.
Yeah.
Because the tickets all said the main event started at 5, which was stupid. They should have said it starts at 4:30 or whatever it was when the heat races.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I mean, as you watch that show throughout the day, it was like, yeah, for the heat races and all that, there ain't nobody there. I mean, no, it's the same thing like at a regular short track. It's like, nobody's coming out for practice and all that stuff. But here's the other thing. The cautions are the one thing that I want to really bust you guys. I'm going to bust your balls on this, guys. When y'all sit there and say there were too many cautions in that race.
Local short track.
Man, we sit there, regardless of the surface, we sit there, yellow, yellow, yellow. Don't tell me there's too many yellow flag laps, because we do that. Y'all sit there every week for that. Every week. This just happened to be a NASCAR race.
Well, and yellows didn't count, though. That's what made the race even longer.
Well, I mean, and
caution laps did not count, and I think that's still a good thing. I think it's a good thing that the caution laps don't count.
I think that's a great thing, because the other part of that would have been, let's count the cautions. Let's say we get to lap 50 and they run 50.
Not enough green flag laps in the race. That's exactly what we would say.
I mean, that's exactly what would happen. I mean, I've been at late model races in the past to where it's like, okay, we're going to count the cautions. And they count the cautions, and people are bitching about there's not enough racing. And I mean, that's part of the thing. I mean, that's just the way the whole thing works. But I mean, seriously, there are so many things that folks are diving in, and when guys are too much bumping. These guys are running each other over.
Well, no shit. It's a quarter-mile bull ring.
You guys talk about you don't want follow the leader. You don't want these guys staying off of each other. Pick your poison. I mean, right?
People just want a reason to bitch, and they're going to watch every week to bitch. It's the Howard Stern effect. More people listen to Howard Stern that didn't like him to see what would piss them off next to complain about than the people that actually watch them for the entertainment value of him and his show. It's the same thing. These people that we know that are sitting there bitching and moaning about every damn thing about NASCAR watch that shit every single week. And then they get on the internet behind a keyboard and they bitch some more. But you know what? Your ass watches every single week. Pick your poison. Stop watching it or stop bitching. That's your two options.
Calm down, dude.
Every week, man. It's the same shit.
But that really is the thing. I mean, it's so easy to just sit there and complain about all of it. And yeah, I don't. I mean, seriously, the music. I don't know who Take a Wiz Khalifa is. I mean,
I did recognize a couple of his songs.
I do know. I do know who it is. But it's like, okay, when that came on, I went and got a beer, took a Wiz Khalifa, and did all that, and with all of that, I mean, I don't give a shit about that. And here's the other thing, and this is where I go back to like our days at CTS. When people are like, the concerts are stupid. Those were our biggest days. I mean, that's
there's a hell of a lot of people at Randy Rogers concert that were drunk as hell walking through the pits.
I mean, that's what you. I mean, that's what you have to do. That's our audience right now, and I've been listening all day, and everybody has the answer to fix this. Are they going to do it there again? Probably not. I mean, I think that they're going to find different places to do this. And the whole thing is, folks are coming back to, let's do it at whatever place, short track. That's not, we don't need to tap. You don't need to have a NASCAR race here in Round Rock, Texas, because this market is not going to sustain this. I mean, you're not going to, Dragon Stadium is going to seat 20,000 people, boom, you're done. But I mean, to go out and get LA and seriously, LA, all of that is so important. It is important. And all of you guys that really want to bitch about the Clash and all that, this does reciprocate down to short track racing. I posted on Facebook because somebody tagged me, Whoop, tagged me on there, said, I didn't want to watch it, whatever. I posted 2 different texts that I got last night. It was from a dude that said, dude, this is great. I love this. Where is a short track? Where's one of these small tracks where I can see this in person? Because I really like this. So I posted that. And then I got from a 50-year race fan that says, this shit sucks. I'm never going to watch it again.
Yeah, he'll be watching Daytona next week.
Well, I'm sure he will.
Or 2 weeks, I guess.
Yeah,
anyway.
but the whole thing is we have to do stuff like this because this helps us. I mean, this is going to put people into South Texas Race Ranch, Cotton Bowl Speedway, Devil's Bowl Speedway. Well, no, they're fine up there. They understand it up there.
It created a unique opportunity for short tracks all over the country.
Yeah, it did.
And that's what made it the best, is that it created everybody, the beat and the banging. Oh, that's pretty neat. What is this close to us? Half the people were like that the cars are too fast and too small to be on there. The other half of people are like, well, where can we watch them do the big stuff?
Yeah.
It's like, boom, guess what?
And that's really the thing right there is I know folks don't want to understand that it's important to have to work. And this is even something that we're about to talk to John about, is like John, what he did with NASCAR. I mean, I was posting pictures of John with the damn governor, for crying out loud. I mean, that's what you do. That's what you do right there.
That's exactly what you do. That's where you get the word out, and that's when it gets fun, is when you get to take the pictures with your buddy Joe Armandia and the governor all right there together.
And Carolyn making it look nice. All right, to the hotline. Here we go. Monumental night here on the Revved Up Sports Show, #Real Race Talk, and we talk to Texas legends and this dude right here. An era that, like I said, I don't think we're ever going to see it again. This is the dude that went in there, and he made it really cool to be a part of racing in Houston. Super delighted to welcome to the Revved Up Sports Show my man, John Mandebach. How we doing, sir?
Hey, how are you guys?
Doing well, John. Doing well. So we'll get to the glory days and all of that here in just a minute. But tell folks. I mean, I went out there and I found you. What are you doing these days?
Well,
chasing kids.
I've moved back to the small town I grew up in that I said I'd never move back to when I left, and raising a family of 4 kids. So I spend most of my time in the evenings now at basketball courts, football fields, and baseball diamonds.
Love it.
Baseball diamonds. Wow, that's a big change from racetracks, John. Do you ever miss the racing, or is it one of those things like you got to completely cut it off because just a little bit of going back into it will make you want to go back in with both feet?
No, you know what I miss most of all is on both sides. I miss the excitement from the fans, and I do miss a lot of the relationships with the racers that I had over the years. You know, ironically, some of the guys I fought the most with on Saturday nights turned out to be some of the best friends that I had when I was down there. So,
yeah.
You know, so that part of it is always there, and it's an itch I can't scratch anymore, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt. So John, let's talk about that time. I mean, it's like folks have everything written in pen around here, how you operate a racetrack, but you did things different. I mean, you went out and you messaged me about the WWF voice and all this stuff. I mean, all the different things that you did. You went out and you found Fiesta and you did all of that. Talk about that. I mean, you did it differently, and you did it so well in the years that you were there at HMP.
Well, we tried it the traditional way, and I always, and I've heard this before, so I'm not the originator, but you don't truly become a great promoter till you lose your first 100,000. And then you scratch your head and you go, no, you know what? I don't think this way is working out. So, we just decided that we were going to do things differently. And my father-in-law, Graham Baker, who's still one of my best friends to this day, he and I just decided we were going to do it different. And it was either going to work or it wasn't, but we couldn't have been any worse off than where it was at. Mm-hmm. And basically, we decided that this has to be a strategy built around the front gate, as we've referred to it. It had to be built around the fans.
Yep.
But it also had to be a balance between creating that excitement for the fans and giving the racers what they needed, which sometimes contradicted with what they wanted. And so what we tried to do is treat the place like an entertainment complex and eliminate a lot of silly rules that a lot of facilities put in place on the back end, and then turn it loose.
Yeah.
But it takes a well-defined strategy. I've been asked a bunch of times about, well, what are the one or two things? I'm like, it's not one or two things. It's a package. It's not an a la carte menu.
Yeah.
So you have to be committed to it. And, I've had some phone calls and a few offers over the years to consult or to help some tracks out for it. But I think a lot of folks want an a la carte menu where they can just pick some pieces of it rather than an overall full strategy.
Yeah,
so.
No doubt.
Well, John, you were the originator of the dollar beer, dollar hot dogs at the races. And I remember talking to you one time about the rainouts hurt every promoter. But you opened my eyes to something that it says, yeah, you can try to find a way to not lose as much on the hot dogs, but you lose more on the bread when you rain out and stuff like that. That opened my eyes. It's so much when we talk to more of these promoters, it's just the little things like that everyday people and most of the racers just don't have the foresight to see that that's some of the little things that makes the biggest difference when promoting a racetrack.
Well, people remember the events where the stands were full, right? And they think you're just stuffing money in your pockets till it's falling out, but no one remembers the rainouts that you had. And so how you budget that, I always say you got to kind of live like a farmer, which means when you harvest, don't go spending all your money because winter's coming.
Yeah.
But we tried to, a couple of things. One is focus it all around the entertainment for the fans coming in, right? And to do that, you got to put together a show. And if you want the families to come out, because you remember we promoted it as affordable family fun, and if you want the families to come out, you better make sure that all members of the family have a good time. And that means that the show can't run till 3 a.m.
Yep.
And the restrooms can't be nasty, and the food can't be cold, and the lines can't be long. So all of that matters. And then for the racing community, it really gets, for me, pretty simple. You owe them 3 things. You owe them fair and consistent rules, fair and firm rules, fair and firm tech, and then consistency. I may not. Well, there are a few times folks that raced at our track said, I may not like the rule that you have here, but you guys tech it the exact same every time, so I know what I'm getting when I pull through the gate.
Yeah.
And to me, they didn't have to agree with everything that we did. They just needed to know that we were going to do it the same this week as we did the last time. And so we had a lot of fun doing that, and there were a lot of arguments about that. I've been called just about every name you can possibly think of. So it takes some alligator skin too. So, and I made a lot of mistakes early on, and those mistakes, thankfully, I can think of a handful of racers that were just as dedicated to seeing the program do well, and a few of them that pulled me aside and said, hey, man, when you do this is what it appeared. I'm like, wow, it's just the learning curve, those first couple of years. So I had the fortunate I was fortunate in having the racing community stick with us.
Yeah.
But the other big thing is it takes sponsorship to make that thing work. Mm-hmm. And so it gets real easy to go out and chase those traditional racing sponsors. But they get hit by everybody. And so what I tried to do was reach out to the folks that were non-traditional for supporting the racing community. And then success breeds success, And when you start having that, more companies came on board, including some pretty heavy hitters from within the racing community to help support it. And probably the thing that I enjoyed the most, though, was helping the guys that race there every weekend succeed in attracting their sponsors and attracting fans. You know, Bobby, you remember we always have a conversation about heroes and villains, and you guys did an incredible job making sure on race day that folks knew the good guys and the bad guys. And sometimes I would get the racer come up to me and go, "How come are you always making me out to be the bad guy?" And I'd always chuckle because I'm like, "I'm not making you to be out anything.
Yeah.
You are who you are. I'm just making sure they know."
Yeah.
So, and creating those rivalries was an incredible amount of fun. So I don't know that there's one secret recipe for it.
Yeah.
I do know that it is a total package, though.
Yeah. And John, isn't the thing right there? I mean, because like I was talking about before you came on, it's like everybody, when we talk about, I mean, I've been a part of regimes there in Houston, and it's like, well, we need to be like the Mandabach days, whatever. It isn't that cool because, I mean, what you did, I mean, you went in, when we talk about Houston, what a huge market that is. You went in and you found, I mean, people don't think about Fiesta. That's the place to go, and what you established with that relationship and everything that you did. I mean, you went and you tapped on that audience and brought a whole bunch of people that probably would not have been at the racetrack otherwise.
Yeah, but you guys are giving too much credit to me.
No,
I mean, this was a team effort, and it took a lot of people to stick it out, because we didn't always have those purses and those sponsors and what have you. But I remember a driver's meeting where I had a conversation with the guys and gals that were there that day, and I said, "Look, we're going to head down a different path here, and you guys will come along for the ride and stick with me. There'll be better times ahead from purses, and as the track becomes more successful, we'll continue to give back." And I can rattle off probably 30 names that were in that room that day. And when I left Houston, those 30 folks were still racing there. Yeah. And they were just as committed to everything that we were doing. Fiesta was an incredible sponsor. And you know what's interesting with that is that started out with the folks there telling us that they had no dollars to invest in racing, but they allow us to advertise on the bottom 3 inches of their circular flyer.
Nice.
And when I left, they were a major contributor financially to the racing program. And so it just took time and a commitment from a lot of different folks. And you know how many family arguments that, we're a family-run racetrack, right? And those of you that know Graham Baker know that I always tease him about being the gentleman racer.
Yeah.
I mean, he's overseas right now racing. 80-some years old, and the guy's still doing it and killing it. Yeah. But I remember that some of the biggest arguments we had was over cars touching. And we'd give him a hard time, like, look, this isn't gentleman racing. A lot of these guys would just as soon kick each other's ass, and they don't care whether it's on the track or in the pits. So we can write all the rules we want. They're going to be masters at beating the hell out of each other one way or another. And so I think one of the best decisions we made was to throw that rule book in the trash. And it took a while. It took a day or so for Graham to get on board. Right. But Sarah moved out for about 3 days. Oh! So, because, it's so ingrained that you have to have all these rules for the race. And when we took that rule book out and said respect is given and earned on the racetrack, that by far changed the entire program of how racing happened on the track. Mm-hmm. And we went through a learning curve that good God, I'm glad I didn't have to write the checks for some of the damage that was out there. But I used to say, look, there are some of these guys that are experts at wrecking their car. No matter what you do, they're going to figure out a way to do it.
That's right.
The best thing we can do is put it back in their hands, and they'll fix it. Because if you tear my car up this week, shame on you next time. And after a while, guys are going to be like, you know what? If we go out there, this is expensive for everybody. So there's a difference between driving hard and destroying cars. And I think that by the time that I left, that was some of the best side-by-side racing.
Oh, yeah.
Well, to this day at short track that I've seen in a long time. And that had nothing to do with me or Graham or any other. That had to do with there's just a lot of talent there that we tried to stifle with a bunch of rules. And when we turned it loose, it was amazing to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And the fans would know that too. Like you talk about the heroes and the villains, but it was one of those things. It was easy to pump up because when they got punted, it was like as soon as they got back to that back bumper, the guy that just punted him, the crowd was getting excited because they didn't know what to expect. They didn't know if it's going to be a clean pass. They didn't know if it's going to be a bump and run. They didn't know if it's going to be a wall stuffer. I mean, that rule changed the whole complexity of that entire program because it really became a dog eat dog. Not so much Wild West, if you will, but it became self-policing, and actually, like you said, it worked itself out fairly well.
Yeah, like I said, we went through one season of a learning curve, and after that, it just got better every single year. Mm-hmm. And, there are a lot of promoters out there that come in, right? They got great idea, and they get some money behind them, and they put on 1, 2, maybe 3 great shows, and then all of a sudden, you look up, and the next one has fewer attendance, and then fewer attendance, and then fewer attendance, and then next thing you know, that program's gone by the wayside. And I think, the difference is the consistency and never losing focus of the reason you have the show for the racers is because fans show up. And if you lose sight of what's important to them, then it never works for anybody.
Yeah.
And Bobby, what you're talking about was, when I stole the cone idea from Gray Garrison, the owner of Gray Garrison, without any remorse at all. I stole that idea. Now we added a little bit of a twist to it. They only do it occasionally. We did it every time.
Yeah.
But you're right. Because of that cone, you could hear the ooh and the ah in the crowd when a guy got punted, and then they restacked themselves. And because you chose the inside or outside, and now that guy's in the guy's rearview mirror, you'd hear him like, ooh, they just knew something was probably coming. Mm-hmm. So, and most of the time it didn't result in them getting punted back or destroying cars, or there were a few instances, but to go there. But most of the time what it meant was there's going to be some hardcore racing going on now because the guy behind's mad. Mm-hmm. And prior to us, it wasn't just the cone rules, but it was how we decided who goes to the rear. Mm-hmm. And prior to that, and a lot of racetracks, even the ones here in Indiana that occasionally you sneak off to is they want to send the guy, if 2 guys are racing and one guy gets punted, the one that hit him and punted him goes to the back, and the guy that spun gets his spot back.
Right.
And as you guys know, we did just the opposite. Mm-hmm. If you spin, we threw the yellow because you spun, not the guy hit you is irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
And so that made, it made for better racing, because I won't say always, but there were a time or two before when a guy'd get bumped really hard and he'd just hook it and spin, knowing he's going to send the guy behind him that bumped him to the back. Well, if you know that if the guy bumps me and I spin, I'm going to the back, you kind of hang in there a little harder.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you can't tell, I get a little excited talking about it. I do.
No, I love it. I love it. I remember that enthusiasm right there. I mean, that's what it's all about. John, you mentioned, let's talk about Graham. I think that's something right there. to where obviously, father-in-law, you mentioned that, but to turn you loose with that, I mean, it's like, boom, here, go. I mean, do it. And I can only imagine the conversations that you're talking about right there. But when you get that literal green light to just go out and do, take it that direction that you want to take it, that right there, that's badass right there. And he always has been. And you mentioned him racing overseas. I mean, talk a little bit about Graham. That's just a good dude right there.
He is. There are a lot of times, Graham used to say, whenever there was a problem at the track, Graham used to send me out there. And he'd joke like, send John out there. He loves confrontation. Right? I didn't. I don't. But there are a few times he would pull me aside and be like, now hang on a minute. And it was, it's kind of the young bull, old bull conversation, right?
Of course.
Let's play a little chess here and walk what you're about to do 4 moves down, and let's see if that's really what you want to do.
For sure.
So, and I'll never forget a lot of the conversations we had, and he to this day is one of my best friends. He was a mentor in that racing program. Mm-hmm. And truly, in mine and a lot of others, he's a legend in the racing community with what he's done. I mean, he's in his mid-80s, and he's running a road course car, and I think he's got a few championships under his belt, and he's out there competing with guys half his age. And not only that, he's helping a few other teams, and he's just someone that they have to catch, so it's, I can't imagine being in my mid 80s doing the things that he does. So, I hope I'm that spry, but I think he's a one of a kind guy.
No doubt. No doubt.
John, what's about? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I didn't want you to cut off about Graham. I was going to ask you about the decision to go NASCAR sanction there, because NASCAR sanctioning is not cheap. It is very expensive for those that don't know. But it seemed like being able to say, hey, look, this is NASCAR, just kind of like you're going to watch on TV. That seemed to open up the door for more fans to come to the racetrack. Talk about the decision to go NASCAR sanction over there.
The NASCAR sanctioning for us was never really about, hey, we're instantly going to get an extra 1,000 fans today because of this. It was more holistic, I guess, than that, about what it would do over time for the program. And you're right, it's expensive to join the family, right?
Yep.
And I went to quite a few of our sponsors at the time, and it wasn't a decision that I or Graham made on our own. We talked to a lot of our sponsors and a lot of the racers and said, what do you think about this? How would this help you attract, to a lot of the races? Would this help you in your efforts for sponsorship, right? Mm-hmm. And then we had a lot of conversation with NASCAR and some really great guys there about, tell us how this program's going to work to help us, right? Mm-hmm. And then we got invited to Speed Weeks, to an owners. They have an owners gathering at Speed Weeks at Daytona, and we were invited. And Graham and I, neither one of us were going to go. We were both busy, and I threw out a offer that I thought that they wouldn't accept, right, or wouldn't do. And I said, look, if I come out there, I want you to set me down with the most successful short track operator you got that's willing to talk to me.
Nice.
If you can get them to be willing to talk to me, Graham and I will come out there. And by successful, I don't want the guy that's just got full pits. I want the guy whose stands are bulging at the seam and the pits are full. And that, I got to spend lunch and most of the afternoon with Greg Garrison and his wife.
Yep.
And that was pretty eye-opening because we were still running the track in a traditional sense. And every time I would say, Gray would share how they would do something, and I would share, well, this is how we do it. And I go, I don't know if, I think once or twice I said, I'm not sure that would work for us. And Gray finally said, I thought you wanted to fill your stands up. And he looked at me and smiled, and I was like, man has a point.
Yeah.
and a lot of it had to do with the rules and the regulations and how we're, running the program. And Gray contributed a lot to that change of thought. And so I can never thank the guys at NASCAR enough for doing that.
Yeah.
And I can never thank Gray enough for spending that afternoon with us, because, and there were a few times I called him over the years and pick his brain, and he was always willing to talk. So he's a great guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And runs a great program at Bowman Gray Stadium.
Yep.
So,
yep. And we were just talking about that, John. I mean, I do think that NASCAR, folks don't want to admit it now. NASCAR is very important to short track racing. We just saw the clash last night, and it is what it is right there. But that's how you get people to our racetracks. They got to see it to be able to reciprocate down to what we do on the small tracks. I think it's super important, and I think you were the one, or you guys were the ones that really capitalized on that and made NASCAR Houston just such a big deal.
Yeah, we tried, but we didn't try to become something we weren't. So we weren't promoting that, hey, this is NASCAR, come and see Tony Stewart's of the world, right? Because that's not who we were. We had to leverage that these are the could be the future stars of tomorrow, but these are your local stars, right? Mm-hmm. And help the fans, many of which, as you guys know, were not hardcore race fans. You've got two different groups that come out. You've got your hardcore race fans, and then you've got your folks that are coming out for entertainment. It just happens to be racing.
Yeah.
And if it's just numbers out there on the track, they're going to come every once in a while.
That's right.
If you want them to come in a consistent basis, they got to know who's out there. And that's where you guys came in, and were a tremendous help in allowing us to make the fans aware of who these drivers are, what their personalities were. It was a big reason, as you remember, sometimes we would get some grumbling about doing the intermission and mandatory that you park your car out on the straightaway, in order to start the feature. Look, that was because it's part of the plan. Again, it's not an a la carte menu. So, and those fans being able to walk down and meet the drivers, and they're going to remember, well, that guy signed my son's hat, and that guy was a jerk, and they know. You don't have to tell. And so when they come back up, suddenly they have somebody that they may know a little more that they root for that they didn't root for before.
Right.
And there were some nights when we would see the potential for a storm to come through, and folks would be like, cancel the intermission. I'm like, no.
Wait.
We may cancel a lot of things, but it's not going to be the intermission.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So, anyways.
I remember that night getting blown off the stand when the tornadoes were coming, and it was pitch black and the wind was kicking up about 30 miles an hour, and I'm banging on the window to try to get somebody to help me hold this umbrella before we both fly off the stand. And we knew it was going to be a hell of a storm because they closed down Bush. They didn't have any more planes in the air, and it was like, but we were going to the end of that heat race because you wanted to get to that intermission. And you know what? We didn't even have to rain out that night. So that was a great night. No. That was a fun night. It pops up on my Facebook memories about one of my best times at H&P, but the question has come up, and I just want to set the record straight. There has been a question as who coined that place, the Palace of Power, and I want you to help set that record straight about who came up with that moniker for that place.
Bobby, you know that was you.
Graham Baker.
The first time I heard it was Bobby Chat.
Yep.
Yeah, there's been questions about it, so I just want to set the record straight.
you just wanted to hear you wanted to hear me say it. Make me say it. Yeah. So and then after that, it just stuck, right? So we put it into everything, and I heard you scream it over the PA system one night, and I was like, I like that. And so we just ran with it, and it became our brand, right? And so big part of how we branded it was, the expression hard charging, fender banging, paint swapping,
Hell yeah.
race 'em or wreck 'em, racing, right? We put that on everything, and fans knew when they came out there that our racers were there to put on a show.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to go around and ask them to put on a show.
Mm-hmm.
Those personality, you didn't race if you didn't have that kind of personality anyways.
Mm-hmm.
We just had to we just had to be smart enough to turn them loose.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
I keep I keep telling Bobby, John, that he needs to send Dean a bill, like right now. It's like, okay, send him a retro bill for the Palace of Power.
The royalty check. Yeah,
yeah, royalty check.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Okay, we're not going down that road, but
love Dean to death, but you're not getting $1 out of that guy.
Gina's checking in. I'm sure she'll love that. John, lastly, your and again, I love some of the texts that you and I were having back and forth. Your bottom line advice to race promoters right now. I mean, it's so hard. I mean, you set a blueprint, or you guys set a blueprint that, like I said, I mean, it's so hard to match what happened right there. But your advice to those guys, because it's like people try to do and I'm not just talking about HMP. It's man, it's hard. It's hard, and everybody goes back to what you did. Bottom line, cheapest advice that you would give to anybody trying to operate a racetrack right now.
Well, it's pretty simple. Be consistent and stay true to what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
It's too easy to get down into the minutia of it, and you make small changes that have big impacts. And suddenly you look up and you're like, wait a minute, this isn't on strategy. This is not part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a pretty well-defined process, or well-defined strategy, and we had process discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I say that, but as Bobby can witness, I broke quite a few radios on race night. A lot, when your wife is a race director, you don't exactly get to tell her what to do.
That's right.
But I was, one of my biggest sticking points was the show starts at 6 and it ends at 10. Yeah. And that process discipline to make that happen takes a lot of folks understanding what their job and what their job isn't on race day, right? And so I guess to get back to what your question is you got to have a strategy, and you got to be consistent with it, and you got to remember that a small decision could have a big negative impact.
That's right.
And I've been approached for advice over the years by a few different folks, and like I said earlier, a lot of times they just want a couple a la carte, like magic wishes for it, and then they really start digging and want me. I'm like, wait, hang on a minute. I'm happy to consult, but I'm not cheap.
I love that, dude. When you text me that, I'm like, that is perfect. That is John Mandebach right there.
I'm happy to give you a couple things, but if you want the whole enchilada, it is for sale, but it's not cheap. So I'm pretty happy up here, in Indiana. As you guys can tell, I do miss big parts of it. I do miss the racing community for the most part. I had a particular spot I used to like the races, and that was coming out of turn 4.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was right at the end of the grandstands, and it gave you a good shot of what was going on in the stands. And for me, it was a great vantage point to watch what was going on. I could keep an eye on the concession area. It's just a good central location for me on race day. And it was also a good judge where if I was in that spot every day, every race, I could look up and judge okay, here's where I think attendance was tonight.
For sure.
Here's where the racing is, and it just gave you a good overall. But I miss standing coming out of turn 4 and being able to see the whites of some of the racers' eyes coming out of that turn was pretty amazing, you know. And look, at the end of the day, Houston has a ton of talent, down there, and you got guys who have incredible personalities too. And so when it came time to do interviews, you know, Bobby, a lot of times we'd have a conversation, and I'd be like, "You need to talk to this guy tonight or that girl today," because you didn't see them and know they're wound up, right? Let's put a mic in front of them. So I do miss a lot of it.
Yeah,
I'd
be lying if I said I didn't.
Well, John, I just want to say thanks because when you asked me to announce down there, that was when Uncle Bob was in some bad health, and I didn't mind going down there. But you were an integral part of making my my announcing career as successful as it was, letting me get to be who I was with the Showtime persona and all that. So while I got the chance, just want to say thank you for letting that happen.
No, you're welcome. But Bobby, you did that all on your own. You just needed a venue.
I guess so. Yeah.
You had the talent. You just needed a venue, and I hope that you felt like not only did I give you a venue, but we turned you loose and said, just like with the racers, have at it, boys.
Oh yeah.
Right? So,
there was a few times I got my hand slapped, but not many.
Well, I would hope it was a few.
Yeah. No. John, I can tell you the times that I went there, I mean, it really was. I mean, what I always thought was impressive is it was like you would consult with me. It's like, okay, here's what we're looking to accomplish. You figure out a way to do it. And I just really think that, again, you ran that place as a business. I mean, you guys did. And I think that that's where it's hard now. And I mean, we say that a lot and promoters get pissed off at me for saying that, but you guys were able to do that. And I mean, it really is. I mean, you got to have the clients back, the customers back, you got to have the racers back. And, but I'll tell you one thing, I was always so impressed with you because you never took any shit from anybody. And I think it's.
I don't know about
that. Man, you did a job that, like I said, I mean, they always talk about those days, and it's truly a great era in Texas racing that you guys were able to accomplish, and we're just so excited that you jumped on here this evening.
No, it was a lot of fun, and you know, one of the most another enjoyable part of it, and I'll let you guys go.
No, you're fine.
At the end of the night, I used to, Sarah would grab a fifth of Maker's Mark and we'd throw it in the walk-in freezer when we got out there. So that thing sat in that walk-in freezer from morning all the way in. So it was syrup by the end of the night.
Nice.
So I'd grab like a 6-pack of Cokes, bag of ice, stack of cups, and that fifth on my go-kart, and I'd start to make my way around the pits, just thanking people for coming out and you know, give them an opportunity to say what they got to say. And you know, if you remember, Bobby, a lot of the racers, they didn't head out after, they stuck around.
No, we partied late at night at the track.
You know what though? It was a community. Is what you know, yes, all right, guys are partying, they're having some, but they were there unwinding, and it was a community, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would usually start at one end and, you know, go around and have a few drinks, but I never realized till about, I don't know, one season, one of the guys come up, because, you know, most of the guys pitted in the same spot, and they're like, hey, man, you think you could start at the other end of the pits this time tonight? I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, because you're shit-faced time you get to us.
And John, isn't that the you know, I always talk about, like, when you were talking about an efficient racing program, you know, done by 10 or 10:30. Yes, absolutely. If I want to stay at the racetrack till 6 a.m., I'm going to do that on my own accord. I don't want to be watching racing until 2:30 or 3 a.m. I mean, I want to be there getting shit-faced. And that's kind of the thing right there. Yeah, you guys did that really well.
Well, you know, the whole 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. was more about, look, it's no secret that racing is typically a male-dominated sport, right?
Yep.
The fan base is tends to demographically be more male-based. So we were trying to attract families. That means mom and the kids have to come on a regular basis. If it's a 1 o'clock show, your mom's coming once in a while, but she's not coming very often unless she happens to fit into that hardcore race fan. There are a lot of those as well, but demographically speaking as a whole, that's not how it shakes out. And so by us running a 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. show, folks with small kids can get home in a decent hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
And clean restrooms. I mean, the maintenance would tell you that one of the quickest ways to really get me hot was if I got out there, and I'd walk through the restrooms before we opened up to the fan base. And if they weren't clean and spotless, Graham and I were hot to trot by then. And so they knew, like, that those restrooms got to be clean. People aren't going to come to a cesspool.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it speaks volumes about what it is. And so all that 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., the clean restrooms, the hot food, and then, my labor bill for the concessions was crazy, right? I mean, you guys had seen it. I'd have 15, 20 people working in there. Why? Because we put an assembly line, a process in place. So those lines moved fast, and it was all about volume. It was all about volume at the whole facility. And that's why that 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. was so important. And you're right. It gave us more time in the pits afterwards.
It did. It did. It was a lot of fun. So I got a question for you. I got a question for you, though. A little oddball question, because that's when Chris, David, and them were doing the videos from up top, and they were trying to sell it that way. Now with this whole modern day streaming thing, to where, what you can sit on the couch and you can watch racing coast to coast, north to south. From your promoting perspective, what is your take on that? Is it one of those things? Does it cost a seat in the grandstands, or does it create an opportunity to get more people to show up around the next race by watching it on the internet or watching it on TV? What's your take on this internet streaming stuff with the whole internet streaming of local short track racing?
The conversation I had back then was do it. Why? Yep. Because you cannot replace the sound, smell, and vibration and the excitement of being there.
That's right.
Right? And you can't get that on your couch. So if you're streaming it, chances are it's going to somebody that wasn't coming that night anyways. Mm-hmm. And if they see it and they like what they saw, there's a good chance they're going to come out. And if you do the things you're supposed to do when they do come out, then you've just created a new customer.
That's right.
And a new fan. And so Graham and I used to talk about this all the time. If we focus on being the best at what we do, the rest of it will take care of itself. And you don't have to worry about, somebody wants to stream it, they're not going to come out. No. You can't replace the live action. Now, what it does do is, hey, you know what? I've got family obligations, or I had to work late and I can't make it out. I can still watch the racing. And so what you've done is you've allowed your fan to stay involved.
That's right.
And that's my perspective of it. It may be wrong, but that's how we treated it. And I don't see it any different now. You can't, streaming is not the same as being there. Now, if you do a really crappy job on site, then yeah, you probably got something at risk. But if you're putting on a great show, because I'm going to stay home on my couch if it's everything moves slow and there's huge gaps between heats and features or between the classes, or you got 9 million classes. That's another right. thing that used to annoy me. I'm going to stay home. Why? Because I can either stream it while it's live, or I can watch the replay and fast forward through the boring parts.
Yep.
So it only works if you make sure what you're delivering is a high quality product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. Exactly. That is the best way to put it right there. Best way to put it. John, this has been so much fun, my man. I mean, we could, I think we need to go up there and visit John. And we could just sit around and have a whiskey or something and just talk some racing. I think that'd be a good time.
there's a good chance we're going to be on a field somewhere. I got 4 kids. They all play travel sports of some kind now. And so, I've got an old hot rod of a 70 Nova. It's back out with a blower motor on it.
I saw that.
It's bright orange. You might have seen it a time or two when I drive it out there. I haven't even started that thing in 5 years. It's sitting in my barn on jack stands. It hasn't been started in so long. I've got, and I've only got one child, and it's my youngest girl that has any interest in any of that stuff out there. And part of it is my fault because we're so involved in other things that's just not part of what we do now. So
no doubt.
But you're welcome to come up and have some bourbon.
Yeah,
and we can relive the old days. Right?
Well, tell Sarah we said hi.
That habit I have maintained.
You're a good man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good thing.
Yeah, tell Sarah we said hi. We didn't want to leave her out of the conversation,
right.
but tell her we said hi, and thanks for letting us borrow you for 45 minutes to an hour on a Monday night.
Yeah.
No, and none of that would have worked without her either. I mentioned it earlier about Sarah being a race director, but she ran a really tight ship during the show, and she wasn't swayed by popular opinion either. And I don't know if you realize, but she was one of the few NASCAR sanctioned female race directors in the country at the time.
Way back then. Yep.
And she did a phenomenal job. I'm biased because she's my wife, but I'm telling you that there's no one else I would have trusted in that seat but her. So.
She did not bullshit around on that radio. That was always the best thing right there. Yeah.
That's why I broke about 2 or 3 a season.
Great stuff, John. Thank you so much, dude. It's been so fun. We've been rolling video here back from those days with the shows that you would put on, and man, thanks for the memories. And let's do this again, man. We part two of the Mandabach days needs to happen right here on Revved Up.
Well, I appreciate you guys reaching out. It was a lot of fun walking down memory lane. So thank you.
Absolutely. Now you're hooked. Time to go racing again, my man. Take care, dude. We'll talk soon.
All right. Take care.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
There he is. That, again, an era that's going to be unmatched.
It will take a hell of a lot to top it.
That's one of the things. It's like, I think that's part of the not problem, but one of the obstacles that Houston has is that they're trying to match that. And again, I don't mean any disrespect, obviously, to Gina or to John or anybody that's doing that. When people go to a race there and they're like, well, I remember back in 2011, and it's like. But when you listen to what John and Graham, what they did, I mean, they went out and they thought, and the whole thing is outside the box, outside the freaking box. And that's where I think that, a lot of tracks do a good job with that. But like John talks about, everybody can go knocking on the door of the auto parts store down the road and, whatever, the towing service or whatever. But John and Graham, they and the team, they went over there and they found the people that were not the normal racing people, and they nailed it.
They did. You had Fiesta as the main track sponsor. Then you had Cricket Wireless as a main premier class sponsor there for a while, and so they had quite a few big name businesses associated with the track. And man, God, it was a hell of a lot of fun to be the announcer down there during them days.
Well, and I got to tell you,
along with a partner. I mean, Uncle Bob was great too. I learned a lot from Uncle Bob. We'll talk to him in a minute. But damn, it was a lot of fun.
But I mean, part of that is, when you talk about racetracks, go get the big. Let's go to. Advanced Auto Parts. I worked for Advanced Auto Parts, with Mobile, and everything that we do there. But what you just mentioned, Cricket Wireless. That ain't T-Mobile. That's not AT&T. That's not Verizon. Fiesta, that's not HEB, that's not Kroger, that's not whoever else. They went and they found those people, and they packed the damn stands each and every time.
They sure did. It was a lot of fun.
Yep, great stuff. Thank you to John Mandabach for checking in, and we continue this Houston conversation coming up. We're going to talk to the man right there. He'll school us all on how to race announce. We're talking to Uncle Bob Mireles. That is the man. It's coming up. Hashtag Real Race Talk. Bobby, this is fun. Good stuff coming up.
Hell yeah.
Have you heard about the latest and greatest technology being built around the DFW area? Generation Race Cars and JL Racing, located in Springtown, Texas, are now offering top-of-the-line, state-of-the-art Southern Sport mods and limited modifieds. Generation Race Cars and JL Racing can provide new cars, turnkey, complete bodies, shock revalving, and chassis updates, along with providing trackside setup guidance and a whole lot more. If you're looking at competing at a whole new level, call 817-528-2947 and ask for Justin today. You can contact them through the JL Racing Facebook page to learn more about Generation Race Cars. You put a ton of effort into your race program. Now take it to victory lane with GRC.
Hey everybody, Rodney Rodriguez for CRS Suspension. Are you ready to take your racing program into victory lane? Well, if you are, then it's time to call CRS Suspension, the industry leader in handling technology. CRS now solely owned by winning iStock and late model racer Jeffrey Abbey, whose knowledge can do big things for your oval track success. Give CRS Suspension and Fabrication a call today at 325-330-0647 and learn how you can get the shocks and technical guidance that will put you into the winner's circle. You either have CRS shocks under your car or you get outrun by those who do. Choose to win and call CRS Suspension today and follow them on Facebook at CRS Suspension Fabrication.
Keep thinking that I could have done something, but now I'm left with an empty heart. No making amends, no waking up beside you and holding you.
All right, back again. Thanks to our friends over at Generation Race Cars and CRS Suspension for helping sponsor the show. Great conversation there with John Mandelbach, one of the coolest guys that you get a chance to meet. If you're really fun, you just follow him in his golf cart from point A to point B in the pits, and the conversation would go from about 10 o'clock to about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and have a hell of a good time. And I learned a lot from John too. He taught me a lot of insights from the promoter side that I would have never have thought about. But it's so cool to just be able for him to teach me some of the ins and outs of the promoter side. And it's, he did the same for you, which, you kind of turned into the stuff with Mobile and all of that good stuff. So he's had his fingers. His fingers are in a lot of pools in terms of how well he spread his racing knowledge. What is it? The coaching tree?
Yeah.
Like Mike Leach has. John Mandelbach has had a lot to do with a lot of racers.
A lot of good stuff right there that he did. I mean, really making that show just pop. And that was the thing. He came in like he talked about right there. The first season, they were trying to learn and whatever. And then they kind of threw some of the traditional stuff out the window and dove in to do things differently. And I can tell you, one of the ideal personalities that was a part of that from the get-go and dove in there and bought into everything that was happening there at HMP is obviously Bobby, you and I, one of our favorite people. Every time I know when the place reopened a couple of different times, he's walked up there and to shake my hand and give me a hug, and it's just I just love this guy. I just love this guy. Let's go back to the Revved Up Sports Show hotline, and we're talking to the man himself. I like to call him the Dean of Texas race announcers. Say hello to Uncle Bob Mireles. How we doing, sir?
Rodney, Double R, how are you today?
Doing well, Bob, man.
It's the Iceman is back.
Whatever.
That's right, old Double R. And what about Showtime, Bobby Chaffee? How are you?
Man, I'm doing good, Uncle Bob. How about yourself tonight, man?
I'm doing very well. Just busy.
See,
how did Mr. Mondeback do? I wasn't able to listen. I was on the road, but
oh my goodness, this guy's telling stories about how he did things out there, and that's why I wanted to reach out to you, relate to that. First of all, to me, the first time I met you, you told me, when you first started working with them, how they would pay you. which for me that's ideal to get paid the way that they would pay you at the end of the night. Talk about how you became the voice of HMP.
Well, I all started at a little bitty old mud hole dirt track on the south side of Houston, off Highway 35. It's called. It was called back then Texas Motor Speedway. It's a quarter-mile dirt track outside of Alvin, Texas.
Yeah.
And you'd have boat tail cars, you'd have wing modifieds, mini stocks on the. That's how I started. And you'd have 40 cars out there on these little dirt. If you can do that race, you can do anything. So starting from that, when that closed up, I kind of got hooked. I liked doing that. So I went to Big 8 Speedway.
There it is.
And there was a fellow there by the name of Mick Anderson. I don't know if you remember him.
I do.
Mick Anderson was the guy down on the bottom. He liked to get by the flag stand and set up his DJ music and stuff and dance and do a lot of stuff. But he didn't like calling races. Oh. And that's what I did. So that's how I got started. Right before the Bakers came in.
It's awesome. Things
closed for a little bit, and then David and Graham came in with the owner, and I don't know if it was a lease deal or what the deal was, but that's how it started. And for the first 2 years, we didn't get paid. Speaking of pay, we volunteered. A couple of friends of mine went over there just to kind of get things started.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. Wasn't always good. There was a lot of times when we first started, we either had the cars and no people, or we had the people didn't have any cars. But when John Moundaback came in and kind of stabilized everything, that's when things started to build and build. And it got to be magical.
Oh, my God. Bob, I love the first time I met you, you were telling me that when you would work there for free, that they would pay you 2 Miller Lights a night. And you were like, I'm good.
That's right. Let this go down and rest a little bit, and then I'll drive home. We're good.
That's it.
We'd only have 2. Yeah.
That's right.
But it was so much fun. And what the thing was that it was family oriented when the Bakers came in. Graham, as you all well know, was the father, and he had Pip. His wife was kind of the motherly figure, and it's just someplace that you wanted to be on a Saturday night, and that's what made it so special.
Mm-hmm. Bob, it was great working with you over the years because you were able to teach me things that I'd never realized by just sitting there and announcing by myself some of my tendencies, but you were able to be a mentor to me. And, over the years, it was so cool to be able to work with you all those years over at HMP. And it's still fun to get with you now. And we're happy that you're on the show. But talk about the way that place evolved. John was talking about it a little bit when he went to that dog eat dog scenario where it was like you got run over, but you got run over and you got spun. But within a couple of laps on that outside of that Fiesta Express Lane cone, you were going to end up getting back behind there, and the crowd just loved it.
Well, that it kind of was built that way. But when you got to the pits at the end of the evening, everybody was friends. And as you all too well know, after that, and y'all go to the Holiday Inn, it's Party Central. And we've got some stories about that we probably can't say. But anyway, that's it. That's what made it different. Nobody took it like they take it today so seriously. To where if you bump somebody, well, they got to come and crash you. It wasn't that way. And we had some very, very talented drivers. And I believe what made it so special was that there were several factors involved, and the first one was good racing.
Yeah.
Nothing more phenomenal to the crowd than watching Joe Aramandia in his modified start dead last in the field of 20 modifieds on a 75-lap race and win it by almost a lap. Yeah. That sells it. That brings the people back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really does. And Bob, I think that one of the things that you did so well is kind of what John was talking about right there, and you pass that on to those that of us that are still trying to do this the way that you did it. You built those stories. I mean, you talked about the personalities and right there talking about Joe and I mean these guys, state champion, everything that he did. That really is what made that place so great is that people came to see whoever it was, Armandia, Sonny Hunt, whoever the hell it was. I mean, Webster. I mean, they came out to see those people that you, starting out, you built those personalities.
Well, I've always thought that a good announcer, people don't come to see you or hear you.
Amen.
They come to get information.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would have to do, and what all good racetrack announcers do, is that when the track opens on Saturday, you're there when all the drivers arrive, and you work those pits all day long. You talk to every driver, find out what's happening in their lives, that their plumbing business is doing well, and they're expecting their third child. You know, those are the things that people want to hear, and that's what you got to do. And every once in a while, they'll say, hey, I've got a sponsor here tonight. Can you give them a plug? And everybody loves to hear their name on the PA, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But Bobby, speaking of mentors, as you all well know, in 2010, on May the 31st, I got real sick, and I had to stay out the rest of that season. Who comes to town, to my racetrack, but the boys out of Austin? You two guys. And you finished that season. Bobby Chaff, you even renamed my racetrack. My racetrack was the fastest 3/8 mile track this side of North Lake Houston Parkway, and you renamed it to what?
The Palace of Power.
There you go. And henceforward, it's always been the Palace of Power. So who learns from who? And ever since then, the couple of years that I had left there, it was difficult doing what I used to do after you two guys came in and just made it wonderful. I never had an opportunity to thank you for that, but I'll do it now. Thank you very much. That was a wonderful time.
Oh, Bob, you did so much for me that you didn't even realize how much you helped me. When I got a little wild and crazy, you'd come in and say you're getting a little too wild, getting a little too crazy. You put all the legwork in, talking to the different drivers, getting their sponsor stuff lined up for us. You'd have all the PA notes right there in your little binder that made it just so much easier for me. And it was an honor and a privilege to work with you all those years we worked together at HMP. It really was.
Well, thank you guys. And I remember going to Austin and watching y'all two work there. So y'all spread your magic all over Texas, and you haven't stopped today. So thank y'all very much for what you do now.
Uncle Bob, I got to tell you, one of the first times I went down there when you sent me your spreadsheet, I'm like, what the hell's this? I mean, because Debbie Williams was really good, for us and Kyle. She would do stuff like that. But when you would send stuff over to me, I'm like, oh my God, it was like pressure. Okay. Hey, here we go. It's like
you guys have it all in your head. I hear you announcing. You got no notes. This stuff just comes out. It's like, who do you get that from?
No.
You must have gigantic brains. But anyway, it was so much fun, and it goes. I did 19 seasons there at Houston, and went by like a blink of an eye.
Yeah. So, Uncle Bob, I mean, let's talk about that. I mean, talking about there, let's talk about the magical days there of Graham and John and Sarah and everything that happened right there, because that really was. I mean, when you go back and you see, Hollywood movies and all these different things of great times or, musicians with their magical years of everything they're doing. Those years in Houston, I mean, with the Fiesta and with everything that was going on right there. I mean, that was kind of one of those things. It just happened. I mean, it was like, okay, boom, gates are open. I know there was a lot that was going on, but it was like magic every freaking Saturday night right there at HMP.
Well, it's through the hard work of Graham and through the hard work of John Mandebeck for all the work that he'd done to stabilize things, to bring in the money. So the drivers knew that there's always money. There's no flim-flamming going on like a lot of other places.
That's right.
So that's where the drivers wanted to be. And another thing is that you would see people who would start in the eco class and move up again, and their kids start where they start. So just a progression. It was wonderful. And we've got a couple of guys now that started there that are racing on Sundays. So wonderful.
Yep.
Bob, EcoStocks was always one of your favorite classes. You like the big mods and you like the the trucks with the beating and banging, but you always had a special place in your heart for the Eco Stock. You loved that class. What was it about that class that you loved so much to make the announcement when you used to have so much fun with those cars?
Well, the reason being is that it was the particular class that got the people out of the grandstands and put them on the racetrack.
That's right.
And once they did that, there was a fellow by the name of, oh God, getting old is difficult. It'll come to me. But he owned a fabrication and welding shop, and he was in the grandstands. And he said, I want to try that. There's a fellow named Brad Dixon who brought in a couple of, I don't know if he had a salvage yard and he built them or what, but he sold them for $1,500.
Yeah. And
it got started with 2 or 3 or 4, and it built up and went on to where those guys graduated from that onto other things. And it was just fun watching them. I can remember a young lady who was so happy that she stayed on the lead lap.
Yeah.
And over a period of season, she was the season champion.
Nice.
So that was very satisfying to see. And every week when you came in and you talked to them in the pits, you got to know them just a little bit better. And that was a gratifying thing for me because it's really all about people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's really what the sport's all about. I mean, when it comes down to it. So I know that you've been out there. I mean, now that you kind of stepped away from that role, that when you go back out there and you see everything going on, I mean, how cool is that for you to just watch the racing as it happens right now? It's not the way it used to be, but just to go out there and see and think about the memories that you're talking about. I mean, that's got to be pretty cool for you with everything. I mean, because seriously, Uncle Bob, that was legacy moments what you guys did out there.
Well, I do miss it. I miss it terribly. I wish I could do it. Unfortunately, my health. That is a young man's game. It does take a lot of effort, but going back and watching the races now, I can appreciate what they do and how they do it. What I do see today that I didn't see then is that the talent level of the drivers has increased dramatically. You can have a race of 10 guys that is as exciting as it comes because they are so talented. We had a lot of beating and banging back then because the driver's level talent wasn't as good. But that grew too. That grew too over time.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's just so crazy to think that you were there for 19 seasons and everything that was done over those years. What is there one moment that sticks out over the years? I mean, I know it's hard to just pick one. Maybe the top couple. If somebody says, "What's some of your favorite moments from there?" Any of them just kind of pop up in your head right now on the fly?
There was one. And I don't know if you guys were there or not. It was a heat race in the Legends class.
Nice.
And I think it was 15 laps or something. And they had an accident coming off of 4 with 2 of the Legacies. And this particular year, they had a lot of new guys coming into the class. So the skill level wasn't as good. But when they wrecked, they ended up just shy of the flag stand right in front of what was that night a pretty good crowd. I mean, it was almost full. And lo and behold, out of corner number 4, here comes a new guy, full bore, right into the back end of the car stalled on the racetrack.
Yikes.
And oh man, your heart sunk. And what happens right after that? Poof, fire underneath the back end of that car.
Ooh.
Safety crew was there quick, but their fire extinguishers were just keeping it off the driver, but not putting it out. And it was getting worse. And I can see it like it was yesterday. Some guy out of nowhere in a green long sleeve shirt jumps on top of the hood of that Legends car, grabs the top of that car and peels it back.
Wow.
Reaches in, grabs the driver and pulls them out, and the flames, it was like a movie. It was amazing. But before he got there, I had this feeling, we're going to see something we don't want to see.
Right.
Bless this particular fellow that came and saved that driver's life. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
Ever.
I remember that night. I was there that night. And you're right, it was a rookie kid, and it was Steve Green that reached in that car and unhooked the seatbelts and grabbed that kid out of that car, and it saved that kid's life for sure. Because I got to talk to Steve a lot when Clayton was racing, and I asked him. I said, "What?" I said, "You know what came over you?" He said there was somebody in that car that needed help, and I was the closest one there to help him. He didn't want to be considered a hero. He didn't want me to talk about it over the microphone about all the what he did, because he said anybody that was anybody would have done the exact same thing in his spot. And I was like, I don't know. There's not too many people that would reach into a burning race car and try to help somebody out. But yeah, that was a very special night. That one could have been a lot worse for sure. I remember that night. I remember the night pretty vividly.
Such a tragedy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of nights.
Yeah.
And I tell you, there's one thing that there were some other people involved. Our chaplain there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, he's gonna kill me. He's in Maine. He's gonna kill me.
No, Nick.
What is his name?
Nick
Holt. Yeah.
Nick Holt. Yeah.
Nick Holt. I'm sorry. I tease him all the time. He is the only fella I've ever heard in all my years of racetracks that will give an invocation, and when he finishes, the crowd clapped. I've never seen that in my life, ever. But he was a fun guy to hang out with. We hung out with a lot of guys. A fellow there by the name of Fritzy, who kind of worked the pits.
He's still there.
Old fella, rest his soul. No, he's been gone.
Oh, okay. Different
But,
one. Okay. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was all those things that was the place that you had to be. And we tried to relate that to the crowd. Next time you come, bring somebody with you, and so that they will feel that same feeling that this is the place that you have to be. And that's how John Landerback built it up.
Yep.
Another thing that John did was at intermission time, he'd bring all the drivers out for a meet and greet. That was unheard of at that time.
And Bob, that's what I wanted to ask you about, because John was talking about that right there. And I really think I remember one of the first times that I went up there when you would, talk to me about what was going to happen right there. You were so when the intermission came up, it was all about, the fans getting out on the racetrack and everything. But it was so much what you did. You were talking about all of the sponsors that were a part of the races, whether it was Fiesta or the towing service. I mean, whatever it was, you, and this is where I know when I would do the intermission, I sucked at this because I was never, I couldn't hold a candle to the way that you did that. I mean, you would sit there. No, well, you would sit there and you gave acknowledgement to everybody. And I think that intermission there, that was the most 45 minutes, most productive time of the night on the business side, that the way that you handle that.
Well, that's what an announcer had to do. But that those meet and greets, when those children got out there and got in those race cars, those were the future drivers that we were going to have racing on that racetrack. And lo and behold, it never failed that I would hear people say, "Oh, I came and I sat in a race car, and now I have 3 of them."
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, and as a matter of fact, Graham Baker was insistent upon. He said, the race director said, "Well, we're running late. Can we cancel the meet and greet?" He said, "Absolutely not."
It was thunderstorming, and they still wouldn't cancel that thing.
Yeah, he would cancel a race before he'd cancel them, because that's what a lot of the parents brought their children. That's what they brought them for.
Yep.
So it was fun time.
Good stuff.
And I hope it comes back the way it was then. Never can tell. They got very talented people working now, so we'll see.
What you up to now, Uncle Bob, other than retirement from HPD? What you got going on right now? Got any hobbies other than this whole racetrack announcing stuff you used to do?
Real estate, it never stops.
It never stopped. My wife owns a real estate company, Visions and Traditions Realty here in Friendswood.
That's right.
And I was so nice being retired that she decided to buy a real estate school, and that's what I do. I run that school to train all the realtors.
Oh, nice.
So I'm still announcing. I'm just doing it in a classroom.
Nice.
and not on the racetrack.
Hey, Bob, if you ever need principles 1 or 2, I can teach those. I've done it. I've done it a couple of times. So,
there you go. Well, we've got instructors all over the state. So
I
maybe call it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how long are you two guys going to continue on this trek of yours?
Long as they let me, I guess.
Well, I don't know of any others that are as skilled or travel as much as you two guys do, and I can see why.
Well, Bob, the whole thing is, I've talked to a lot of race operators, and it kills me that I can't be at every track. I'd love to help everyone, but I think the thing is, and I mean, you can relate to this. I mean, we got to get the next group in line. Because at some point there's not going to be an Uncle Bob, there's not going to be a BC, there's not going to be a double R. I mean, there's got to be people that step into this, and it's
and you've got to show them the ropes.
Well, and the whole thing is, I mean, so much of that is like you. I mean, we all have our own persona. I mean, the three of us talking right now, it's three different personalities, and it's just people gotta step in there and do that. So I'll do it as long as I can.
You do a wonderful job.
Oh.
I've heard you.
Oh, thank you.
Several times.
Yeah, well, much appreciated. And it's always a joy to see you out there. Uncle Bob, thanks for jumping on here. This has been a lot of fun, just talking shop, talking some good stuff. And
it's a pleasure. And thank you so much for inviting me. It reminds me of a lot of good times.
Well, and like I said, Bob, you really are the man. I mean, Bobby and I get to do whatever, but I mean, it's guys like you, Neil Upchurch. I mean, you are the guys that make us look stupid, and
in a good way,
in a very good way, and it's much appreciated. Everything you are the voice of H&P. Don't let anybody tell you different.
And I love your show. Continue to do a good job. I'll be listening.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Bob. Thanks for everything.
Take care, my man.
Thanks, y'all. We'll talk to you soon.
You bet.
Good night.
You bet. There he is, Uncle Bob Menendez. Man, good night. I mean, talking to both of these guys. I mean, the glory days there of Houston, and it's man, I'd love to see that happen again, but that's going to be hard to do.
It's fun to just be a small part of that. And Bob was great to me. Bob would handle intermission and do the sponsor announcements like you talked about, and then he'd let me do the big classes and the trucks, the modifieds, and the I guess they were pure stocks back then. Pro stocks.
Yeah.
With Lynn, those great pro stock races with Lynn Hardy and David Webster going back and forth, and the mayor of Hardyville versus, I'll never forget when David Webster showed up one time when they were racing for a championship, and it said, they pulled out this big 6-foot long banner that said, vote David Webster for mayor of Hardyville. Like that was, at that point you knew you kind of arrived when they started, when the racers started buying into the villains and the heroes that you were talking about and making the stars out of them.
Yeah, it really does come down to right there talking to John. I mean, with what he did, he and Graham. I mean, the whole team, everybody. I mean, yourself. When you came into the fold right there, that was an all hands on deck effort right there. But and this is not a slight at promoters these days. It was something to where. I think John was in a good place to where everything was in place to make that happen.
Yeah, everything. The timing was right.
It really was, and that's honestly that's what Houston needs. I mean, H&P needs somebody that's like every freaking day. That is all they're doing. I mean, going out there selling Houston. I mean, like with Gina, when she was there, I mean, she would try to sell, do whatever she had to do, but she had a real job. I mean, she had other obligations, and I know with Alverson and all the team there doing what they're trying to do. I mean, that they have other things to do, and it's I think Houston to make that work the way that we want it to, it needs to be the way John did it.
Yeah,
that's all he did. I mean, and it worked. I mean, it really worked. Real fucking well. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, honestly, to me, I mean, there are great tenures throughout Texas racing. Manda Box right there. And I do say this, I know it's going to be unpopular with what Tim Self did at CTS. That was another situation right there to where he hired people to just every day, you just work on the racetrack, sell sponsorship, do this, whatever. And it was kind of weird with Tim when he did it, because that was what, 2015, 14?
13 and 14.
They were a little beyond. I can tell you, I will tell you guys, Tim paid me extremely well to go run my mouth, and he would hand me buckets of tickets, and he's like, go give these away. Just go give these to people. Get them to come to the track. Sell beer to these people. And it's a different time. It's a different time.
Those that are asking about H&P, they do have a 2023 schedule.
Oh yeah,
out.
yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Houston is there for. They got what is it? 7 races, 6 races?
I think there's 6 or 7 races that are set there. But
yeah, March 11th is the first race. April 8th, May 6th, June 10th, July 1st, September 23rd, and October 21st. So mark your calendars right there. March the 11th. That's the kickoff show for the Southern Premier Racing Series there at Houston Motorsports Park.
Yeah, I mean,
Palace of Power.
The place is still there. You should send them a bill. I'm telling you, dude, send them a bill. The place,
I didn't want to hear it, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody remembered who it was.
Yeah, the place is there. Go support it. I mean, for everyone. I'm going to touch on this. You know, I know I caught a lot of shit about San Antonio being Debbie Download on all that. Sorry, I'm just a realist. I knew that was not going to be something that was going to work.
Wait, they put a sign up that said coming soon.
And
so, who knows what's going to happen now.
And when I see stuff like that, you know what I do? I go and I dig and dig and dig. I put my real work on the side to go and figure out who the hell's trying to do this. Because I mean, it's not our livelihood, but it kind of is. I mean, this is what we do. I mean, Texas racing is what we do. That's why we talk to John Mandebach, and that's why we think about Speedorama and all these. You know, it. You know, I to all of you guys that said that I was being negative, I'm sorry. I went and did my research, and this whole thing right there, it's not going to happen. What you need to do, if you're an asphalt racing fan, put your eggs in the Houston basket, because that's all you got. That's all you got. And if you're a dirt track racing fan, go support your local dirt track, and just get out there, race. If you have a race car, go race. If you're a fan, go fan.
Because the rules are wide open right now. Really, if you think about it, they've opened up a lot of these rule books to let a lot of cars come race in one class.
They really are.
They've been a lot. Texana's done it with this new hobby stock class they got. You got the bootleggers there in Houston at H&P. You got the firecrackers, whatever they are, at I-37. I mean, you've got a lot of tracks that have opened up a big set of rules to let a lot of cars start racing. If you got one, pull that sumbitch out of the garage, pull that sumbitch out of the weeds, take your ass to the racetrack.
They're doing everything that you people wanted to happen. Like you were talking about on the Saturday Horn Show. What did we want with NASCAR? We want a short track. We want all this stuff. We want a common car. We want all. This is what the racetracks are doing right now for you guys. It's like, okay, they're figuring out a way. You know, when I look at rules and I see Camaros are okay, Novas are okay. That was always the biggest blaring thing that wasn't there. They're giving you the opportunity. Don't beat them up. I mean, and again, it's like we go back to, I'm going back to the Clash thing last night. I look on social media and it's like, you know, this sucks and all this. And once we get to the local racetracks opening up, call the promoter, message the promoter, have these discussions offline, because each and every fucking time that you go on there and you're beating the racetrack up, you are killing the business, because people look at this stuff and the Clash trying to get people to the short track. I'm talking about my buddy last night. Where's the nearest short track? I'm like, Cotton Bowl Speedway for this dude. I'm like, but there it is right there. So if he looks up Cotton Bowl Speedway and people are talking about, oh, the rules suck and the tech guy ain't worth a shit,
he ain't gonna go.
He ain't going. He is not going. And that's where we just got to get better about that. We kill ourselves more often than not.
It sucks, doesn't it? It's so stupid.
And then we sit and we
remember the good old days.
Yeah,
without realizing what we had.
I know, and that's you know, back to the streaming part. I mean, it's like you know, streaming is not a bad thing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's frustrating.
John explained that actually pretty well.
I like the way he explained that.
Yeah, he did. I think John explained that fairly well.
Mm-hmm. But here's the whole thing, guys. I mean, just support those tracks. Like we said, I mean, race if you can. If you can't, go buy some nachos, buy some beer. I mean, buy a Race on Texas or Racing America subscription. I mean, whatever you do, you're helping our sport. And let's kind of. I know. I know it's not Cale Yarbrough and Darrell Waltrip and David Pearson and all that, but let's kind of take it easy on NASCAR here, because that does. I mean, that really does trickle down to the local tracks, because people are going to watch that shit on TV and they're like, I'd like to see this right down the road. Where can I find it?
Well, but there won't be any Wiz Khalifas and Cypress Hill.
No.
But you'll see some good short track banging action for sure.
Well, and that's the whole thing, for local tracks. I mean, and that's where it was so cool going to the race ranch. Going out there and I get done with the races and Owen's like, hey, come on in here. We got a band. I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
It wasn't Wiz Khalifa. Thank goodness. It wasn't Kevin Fowler. It wasn't Willie Nelson. But I'll tell you one damn thing. They had a bar full of people just hanging out and enjoying the show.
That's what it's part about. It's about the whole experience, not just the racing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what's funny about it is that when you're racing on the racetrack, you're a competitor, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's when you're racing the race, is racing your fellow competitor. What some people fail to realize is the fact that if there are people watching, whether there is one person or 100 people or 100,000 people, you become an entertainer when you race another competitor, and people need to remember that.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that folks need to kind of back off a little bit about. I mean, I saw folks, with the attendance, at the Coliseum last night. The next time you're at a short track, look around. There's a lot of empty seats. I saw folks saying a lot of red seats. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, that's just the way it is, and that's the plight of the promoter and the plight of the racetrack operator.
Mm-hmm.
And when if NASCAR struggles to get people in, and I say struggle, I'd be good with 50K.
I mean, they did good.
Yeah, if we could run that SRL race, and I don't know what the max is there. Gina would have to tell me. If it's 50K that we can get in there, if we get 30K, I'm good.
Yeah. I'm
good, because we're going to sell that beer in the bar. We're going to sell nachos and hamburgers and all that, and it's good. I don't know, dude. It's the racing crowd is different.
They shoot themselves in the foot too much. It's a damn shame.
I know. That's but we love y'all. That's the bottom line. I mean, we complain about you people all the time, but and I enjoy constructive criticism. I mean, and that's why I post stuff, because I like to see you guys just go crazy. The Clash sucks. Why? One word. Why?
You're not supposed to ask those questions. Why?
That's a Dave Moody. That's what I've learned. We talk about listening to Uncle Bob and all these people. Dave Moody asked one word, why? Tell me why.
You don't have to agree or disagree. You just got to tell him why.
That's right. That's what we do. And again, I it's all good. It's all good. Well, this was fun.
Fell off the rails at the end, but hell, that ain't nothing new.
That ain't nothing new. John Mandebach checking in. Great conversation right there. The glory days of Houston, everything that he did. Uncle Bob, the man. Good stuff.
It's fun. I had a little time reminiscing the good old days.
Yeah. They need to, I said it yesterday, I think it was. They need to name that thing up there the Uncle Bob Perch. The Uncle Bob Mireles announcing stand is what that thing needs to be called. Dean, hope you're listening. John, hope you're listening.
Yeah, hopefully. That's what it should be.
Put that thing up there. Do it. Free advice. That's free consulting. All right, guys. Have a great week. Bobby, more rain coming up. The ice is gone, but I think it's gonna be a good week.
It should be a good week. Then you get forward to the Super Bowl, Daytona 500, and before long we'll be local short track racing again at the Clash in Edna, Texas.
That's right. Enduro coming up this weekend at Waco. Looking forward to it. We're back next Monday. #Real Race Talk. It's a Revved Up Sports Show.